Hello, my name is Robert Huntington. I'm a composer and music educator in California, and we've been talking about composing in the large ensemble in this video series. This is the third video in the series, so if you missed the first one on chords, I encourage you to go back and watch that one because you're going to need that knowledge as we go into the last section, orchestration, in this video. The middle one that we was last video is the melody video. If you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go back and watch that one as well. It'll help you with what we're going to do in this. So we're working off of this outline, this flow chart that I made. If you would like to reference this as we're going through the video, you can find it on my website, robert-huntington.com, and see where we're at as we do the composing. So we just did chords. Last time we went all the way to the end of the extended harmony, but you don't need to do that. When you teach this, you just need to know what is a chord, write a chord progression, and then you can move down into write a melody. The most important thing for this method is that everybody agrees on the chord progression that you're using in order to compose as a whole large ensemble. So we're going to assume we just did write a chord progression, we moved down into write a melody, we did that, and now we're going into small ensemble sketches, which is just write a melody over a chord progression. And so you can use the tools that you got in the melody portion as far as you went to write a new melody, or you can compose a new one using the next box over. If you've only done the first two in melody, you can compose structured melody, call and response, and then that's already over a chord progression. So a lot of this is kind of review is built into it as well. Things you'll need: staff paper. You're going to need more than 2 lines at this point. You're going to need at least 5, I would say, lines for what we're going to do in this video. Pencil, if you want to play along on an instrument, awesome. Grab an instrument and play along. And when you're teaching this to your students, you're going to need a whiteboard with staves on it, or you're going to need the ability to project onto a projection screen for your students to follow along. Let's get into it. So this is the chord progression that we have been going on. Pretty simple one, accessible to most secondary student or most students' ears, very going to be familiar to their ears. 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. And so we talked about major versus minor, we talked about building chords, and we talked about how to compose a melody around those chords already. So number 1 on small ensemble sketch is write a melody over a chord progression. We already did that, so I'm going to go up here and steal our melody down that we had already written, because that's going to save us a little bit of time as our priority is orchestrating now. Accompaniment. So at the end of last video, you remember we had melody, counter melody, and then accompaniment in the chords, and we were talking about playing in quintets. You can have 3 students playing each chord tone below while the composer plays the melody. Every student has written the chord progression in the key that their instrument plays, so there's no need for transposition. You can just sit down, in this case 4 students in a quartet, 3 on the accompaniment and then 1 on the melody, and go around and everybody plays their melody while the other 3 accompany them. So great, that's pretty much all you need to do for the first lesson. It can be a review. You can create a new melody if you want to, using the stuff that we talked about in the melody video, or you can use an existing one like we're going to do. So that's 1. 2, small ensemble orchestration. Specify simple accompaniment for an ensemble of instruments in your home key. So now I'm pairing up and specifying, outside of just pick a chord tone, what the people in my quartet are going to be playing. It's still possible to do this in a large ensemble. Your students are only 1 person, so they're only going to be able to play 1 accompaniment line, but they can try out each one as you play through them all together, like this. So we're going to add another line. Let's see here. We can get rid of this one. Actually, let's make this one blank. Boop. Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to bring down our melody over here. That's all we need. So we have accompaniment, we have melody, and now we're going to create our inner lines. And so at this point, you would have talked about how chords exist in multiple octaves. Oops. Up an octave, down an octave. Go up, down, down. Oops, I want that to go up. There we go. So I want 3 parts, ideally hitting each of the chord tones, but it doesn't have to be. over my melody. So 1, 2, can I add another instrument into here? Let's see here. Treble, unnamed staff. That's all we need. Let's move it down to the bottom. That'll be 1, 2. Let's add one more. Down to the bottom. There we go. 2 more lines. Let's move our accompaniment kind of reference down here. And melody is on the 4th line. Okay. So that's all we need. We just need 4 for now. 1 for each chord tone. Oh, and 1 for reference. So actually, 5 would be ideal. There we go. And now we're just going to fill in our chord tones and write inner lines. We're going to keep it really, really simple. If you watch the chords video, you can add some voice leading and extra notes in here. But for the purposes of just demonstrating this, we're going to keep it very simple and just do whole notes. Bass line is super duper important. So I want to just do the root notes of every chord. B, G, A, B. Just the root notes. And so whatever instrument is lowest in your quartet, have them play the root notes. And now I can have, let's like A over here. Maybe we take this up an octave. I'm like a flute player, and so this is great range for me. Flute player number 2 is playing A and then F sharp. Great, and so that's D, F sharp, A, melody. And then second chord, we have the B already, so we need a D and we need an F sharp. We can keep the F sharp here, so we're common toning. That's great. And then this guy just needs to go to D. Great. Here we have the G, so we need a B and a D. D we already have, so we can common tone that. Here, I'll put a little slur so we can see the common tones. And then what do we need? A B. So now you're going to jump up to B. You can, of course, go down if you want to, but if I'm doing like 3 flutes and a trumpet, I'm going to want this to be up here. Or I wouldn't do that because we're doing only instruments in our key. So I could do flutes and like a violin down here, 3 flutes and violin. I don't know. Something in C. And in treble clef, ideally. So now we have A, we need C sharp and E. Maybe we do C sharp here, E, and then we have D, so we need F sharp and A. F sharp. Cool. And we're not going to worry too much about like, okay, my melody's on F sharp, so that means I have 2/3, which is an unbalanced, and I need 2 roots and 1/5, and don't worry about it. Just worry about having the chord tones. We don't need to go into music theory 1 in this video, or if you have a parallel 5th somewhere, don't stress about it. It's fine. We just want chords happening underneath a melody. So I'm going to put that down so it's a little bit lower. And let's hear what this is. Just whole notes on the chord tones over a melody. So you have a quartet of students, and either they're kind of all looking at either this piece of paper, or you have your composer notate out each part on 4 separate pieces of paper, 4 stands, and they can play through it really easily because it's just a bunch of whole notes. Cool. Simple melody, simple accompaniment, but it works, right? That is music. Music is happening. So that's all you need to do for lesson number 2 in orchestration, small ensemble orchestration 1. So now we're going to go on to small ensemble orchestration number 2. Specify accompaniment for an ensemble of instruments not in your home key. So now maybe you have a trumpet in your ensemble and you have to start worrying about what is the transposition for that. You can do that yourself by thinking in solfege. If you remember from the chords video, if you're teaching this for band, I recommend that your students are familiar at least with how solfege relates to notes in a major key. And so you can write as the composer, this is do, and then you're going to la, and then you're going to fa. Oops. Then you're going to fa, and then so, and then do, and then you can have your friend who plays the trumpet translate that into, okay, what is D major do for trumpet? It's E. Great. So I'm going to go E. And then what is la in my key for my instrument. And they can translate that. Or you can do that, the composer, which is a whole can of worms on its own, is teaching the transposition. So we're not going to go into that too much. We're going to focus more on the creative stuff in this video. But so, yeah, you can now assign, okay, I want a trumpet to play my melody, or I want a tuba to play my melody, or a trombone or something, and you transpose that down into bass clef or whatever. If your students are using a notation software, it's a lot easier because you can copy and paste, change the instrument to be whatever you want it to be, and it'll automatically transpose it a lot of times, and they can just read off of the computer or print it out. But by hand is totally possible too. So that's its own thing. Transposition and deciding what instruments are going to play what line. Now, the last one is large ensemble orchestration. Compose 1 to 4 parts and orchestrate those parts into a large ensemble. So if we go in here and we take from the previous 2 videos, we have a melody, we compose a counter melody and an inner line. Let's give ourselves some more measures. We're going to actually do something here. Bam. That's our last measure. Let's delete that one. We can actually delete that entirely. So now you're using a lot more staves, right? But we're going to keep it a little bit more simple. So here we're starting on D. It's our counter melody. Let's put it in our inner line that has D in it. And then we have this inner line. It starts on F sharp. Let's give that to the one that starts on F sharp. Maybe we do it both times. Delete. We don't need to worry about this stuff. Inner line. And then this is just, we could make this, if you watch the chord video, into something more interesting, but we're just going to leave it as whole notes for now. And then our melody is going to happen 2 times. So this is like A, and then resolving. You could go into a B section. Maybe you choose you pair up a few people. They use one student's melody for the A section, another student's melody for the B section. And then you can go A, you have an ABA form piece, and then they just need to compose a little introduction, which could be the same chords, could be something different. Let's see, so counter melody enters there. Maybe we have our counter melody play up an octave, huh? How about that? And we can kind of connect the seam here where we're repeating the melody. Here's our seam on the double bar. The melody flows just fine. This line, maybe we do add a little something in between. Maybe just a C sharp, because we got a C sharp here. We don't want it to be too horribly dissonant. And down here, maybe we do quarter notes here. That's fine. Here, going up for the counter melody, give it some quarter notes as like pickups. And that smooths it out, right? That's going to be a little bit funky. That's okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. Ooh, this is going to be really funky. Ooh, that's fine. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like. Doesn't need to be perfect, and we can always revise. So we have 4 parts now. We have an inner line that we wrote during the chords video. We have a melody, and then we have filling in the harmony, these 2 lines, and then a counter melody joins the melody the second time around. Let's hear what it sounds like. So it's a little bit busy, right? Especially when the counter melody enters. So you can simplify maybe this line and you just make it half notes or something instead of all of these quarter notes in here, and it's moving around so much. Or you could revert back to where it was mostly just whole notes in the previous thing. And now you're just making decisions based on what your ear is telling you. Try out different things, have your friends come, and 4 people sit down and play this, and you have 4 different lines, and then you orchestrate those into whatever ensemble you're playing in, or whatever ensemble you want to put together with your friends. You have some friends in band, you're in orchestra, bring them together, make a little chamber group and try out your pieces. Or print it out and make it for the large ensemble that you play in, and maybe your director will let you, your teacher will let you pass out those parts to everybody and get a read through on what it is that you wrote. Yeah, I think that's the end of orchestration. If you have any questions about orchestration, or if you have any questions about writing melody or chords in this system, let me know in the comments below, and I'll answer as many as I can. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day.